Okay, so Grandma Esplin wrote her history in 1954 when she was 17 years old. These are little snippets from the time she was born until she meets my grandpa. On a cold and snow-filled night in December 29th, 1936, I made my entrance into the world. My father had left my mother at Jacobs Lake Lodge in Arizona in charge of feeding and sheltering the snowbound people, while he went out with a snowplow into the storm in search of some men who had been missing since the snow began. At the lodge there was an old Mr. Edwards and his wife, Grace Juanita Marie, at one time a nurse. I was named after her. Dr. Ekins gave directions over the telephone and I just bawled about the whole affair. In the spring of 1937, we moved to Clear Creek, where we lived until I was 3. I remember the bushes, the large clumps of hollyhock, and the old gate between our lot and the Morrison Station and Cafe. Lee and I used to swing each other on it. I can still hear it squeak and groan as it clamped against its brace. One day I kicked out a window with my bare feet because Mama would not let me have my own way as I wanted to. So I was obligated to stay in the bedroom for the afternoon. I enjoyed myself, however, by getting into Mama and Daddy's bed with a flashlight. The quilt over the bed was pink, and the light shining on underneath it made it a pink wonderland. Another day, Lee and I raided Shorty Morgan's camp, a hired man who preferred to live by himself in a tent up on the hill. We spilled coffee, beans, sugar, and rice all over. I can't remember the consequences. Once Lee and I scrambled some eggs for our dog in a play washing machine. We had to use a shed up by the barn so we wouldn't be disturbed. I can't remember whether the dog liked them or not. Another time I played in the fire and caught my dress on fire with paper. I fled around the room, Mama popping my blisters with a needle dipped in alcohol. I stayed in bed for about a day or 2. We moved to Orderville for Lee to go to kindergarten in the winter of 1940. When I was about 5 years old, I remember walking down the lane by myself, looking up at White Mountain. I thought of how Grandmother Jorgensen, when a girl, tumbled down the great white side, splitting open her head. At the time, I suppose it was how she died, not reasoning to myself that she later grew up. I remember thinking, Grandmother was a wonderful person, because Mama said she was, and the people that knew her loved her because she was always kind to everybody. But I deliberated further. Not everybody remembered her. Only some do. People in Orderville. I think when I grow up, I'll have everybody remember me. On my 5th birthday, I acted worse than Dennis the Menace. I greeted guests with the demand of their presents. One girl had forgotten hers, so I insisted she go back home and get it. We played Drop the Handkerchief, and Lee made me so angry because he played it wrong that I was sent to my bedroom. He was privileged enough to remain at my party. I felt there had been a great injustice done to me. For Daddy's 36th birthday, Mama had made a big, wonderful pink cake with candles. Dinner time came, and to my way of thinking, there was no sense of eating potatoes and gravy when there was lots of cake, so I stated my point of view. Daddy favored to differ, but I held my ground. I would not eat my potatoes, and Daddy said I would or else I wouldn't eat any cake. I ate no potatoes and I ate no cake. That is until that evening when I returned home from primary. Daddy was gone and Mama coaxed me into eating a few potatoes, which tasted pretty good as I remember, and then a delicious big piece of pink cake. When we moved to Hog's Heaven every summer, over the winding, dusty road in our old loaded-down pickup, bumping along, I closed my eyes and hoped Daddy knew what he was doing. When we were almost to the ranch, Daddy stopped the pickup, and Lee and I ran out from Burnt Canyon to the gate. It was in the cool of the evening, and the sun was sinking in the west. We climbed up the gate just in time to see the rest of the family putting along in our new home. At Hog's Heaven, there were many things to do. We churned our own butter from the cream we separated with our own separator, which I disliked so. It was my trial for years. I washed up and I rinsed up, making it an all-day job many times. One winter, Daddy went to Woods Cross to work for wages. We all missed him so much. In his letters to us, he always found little drawings and special messages. Daddy was always shown his affection for us kids by teasing us, singing made-up songs about us, and calling us by our nicknames. Mine was Posy because of where I was born. I entered the first grade in 1943. All year long, Virginia and I worked hard on our little elf book. We kept each page neat and did all our own work so that it would be better than anyone else's because we wanted Miss Blackburn to be proud of us. She gave us a reward for our good efforts, a quarter to each of us, along with instructions to go to the store and buy 50 cents worth of peanuts to treat the room with a peanut bust. So after thanking her, we skipped along. When we arrived to the store, it was full of old men, as it was the town's loafing center. We waited and waited for someone to notice us, but everyone seemed to be engrossed in each other's version of how the war should be won. The minutes went by slowly, and then an hour escaped. We became so restless that we began wandering around the store. Finally, the clerk noticed us. School was out when we arrived back at the first and second grade room. We had to wait clear until the next afternoon to have our peanut bust. It was hard to wait, but we were pretty proud as we passed out our peanuts. At the age of 8, 9, and 10, I wanted so much to be older. I developed a sort of philosophy after being told, "You're just too young to do that. Wait until you're older," or else, "Just boys do those sort of things." I thought it wasn't how old you were that really counts, it's how you feel and what you can do that's important. However, I kept it to myself, just like I did many things. In the 5th grade, Virginia and I decided it was about time that we started dating. There was a matinee high school play scheduled for the next Wednesday afternoon, so we didn't have a lot of time. I liked Junior Hepworth, and Virginia decided Jack Croft was pretty nice. So I asked Jack to ask Virginia to go to the matinee. He agreed to the plan, and Virginia made all the arrangements with Junior for me. We were all set. I proudly informed my family of my date. Junior came to the school that afternoon, all spick and span. He even wore a tie. He handed me a dime and said, "It's for your ticket." I was so thrilled. Virginia and I went down to the old Ward Hall to see the play. I don't know what became of Junior and Jack. We didn't sit by them, but I had a date. Since that time, I have had many wonderful times with special friends. I have never been a glamour girl, always a little on the plump side, and I have had many interests besides boys, but of course, boys are always interesting. The spring of 1951, we moved to a farm north of Glendale, Utah. My 4-H projects kept me pretty busy, and the years passed quickly. I went to State Fair, winning the county demonstration with basic mix and banana bread. I was awarded the Carl Raymond Gray Scholarship for $100. I feel very proud of this, and it will help with my college education. And if I was the only applicant for it, Miss Rose told me that you had to measure up to the standards before it was given to anyone. I was also chosen to go to Girls State. In the summer of '53 was the first time I lived away from home. Only 10 miles. I worked at the Y as a waitress. We lived in a cute little cabin where we had fun. The summer I went with Marcy Pug, an easygoing boy. I really liked him. I also went with Roger Fisher, a guy who took turns taking all the girls in the valley out. It seemed like the more I hung out with him, the less I liked him. Cleve Esplin was around off and on, and I was always happy whenever he asked me to go any place with him. Then there was Carrie, an ever-hopeful kind of guy. I went to Bryce Canyon for the first time in my life with him, and really had fun. With Hilton Chamberlain and Noel Lewis, cousins and cousins. I went with Lynn James Esplin for the first time to a Thanksgiving dinner in Kanab. When he asked me, I wondered, why on earth? We wrote to each other about once a month after January while he was in Logan. When he came home, he was through with college with his bachelor's degree. We went to junior prom together, and it was all I have ever hoped it could be. Lynn went to the Army, but before he left, he gave me his Pi Kappa Pi pin to wear. It means that I will remember him and not make any promises to anyone until after he returns home.